We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such. I know y'all tired of it, but we got a new season of The Pass. Welcome to season 8, the Mamba Year. Podcast available on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all of your podcast platforms. Here you'll get a dose of content related to tech, the productivity world, and most importantly, how to be a better you. The theme for this year, personally, is receiving grace. And we definitely want to do better with receiving it and being open to being a better us from who we were a year ago. So this is season 8 of The Pass, and I hope you all enjoy.
For instance, I think technology knows how to do stuff on purpose. I was starting to walkcast, and mid walkcast, my phone decides to just disconnect and reconnect to the earbud. So that audio is there, but I'm not gonna use it. I was gonna use it to talk about hoops, but I think when I get home, I'm gonna sit down and do like a quick impromptu 1-2 on the state of sports. I don't like. It's kind of like a conflicting space to be in today because I'm really not supposed to be working, but I'm gonna do a little bit to kind of chip away at the chaos that I got going on within my grind. And I'm not gonna go into specifics, but let's just say there's some stuff that I need to give a good effort to ironing out without burning myself out. So learning that and working on that accordingly. Um, I knew today was gonna be the day that I felt this cold. Um, so I got a 2-for-1 today on content. And I have always seen this being a thing, but now that I'm like getting older, I realize it's a thing that's always been there. I just ignored it. And that thing is systems and habits. So probably have talked about this multiple times, but I'm bringing this one home a little bit today because whether we've realized it or not, what you're the habits you don't have or the systems that are not in place could play a part into why you're not. I don't even want to say where you want to be, but why you're not doing what it is that you know you could be capable of doing. And I promise you, I'm not here to start trouble. I'm not here to cause no stir. I'm just here to give some words and be on my way. Um, for lack of a better term, the world is a very incomplete scenario, but there are completions involved. You just have to know where to tie things together, where to tie them up. So, for instance, people know going to certain places can draw bad habits, or doing certain things at certain places can draw bad habits. Like, you don't go to a bar to fight people. However, people will go into bars on the strength of knuckle buck. where they really are physically, they physically built tension with someone and for that fight and or issue to said location. Now, there's trade-offs to that. And people think that I'm gonna sound weird or I'm gonna sound crazy making a statement that I'm about to make. But this is one of those, well, Brian, if you're going down a hill, down a good one. So this is a hill I'll down. I talked about this in one of my videos recently where two of my big motivation or high profile influences, whatever you want to call it, are Mel Robbins and Cal Newport. Well, there's a third, and the third probably draws more attention than the other two because his his mindset and his way of doing stuff has kind of been my way of doing stuff most of my life. And I never realized it until really sitting back and just watching how I've operated with things. And his name is Dan Coe. Now, Dan Coe is your everyday person. He kind of started his channel based on fitness and well being. And now he's more on the side of digital content, but he's bringing it to the foundation. And the foundation, as you all have heard me talk about, I think every other walkcast I talk about it, his foundation is writing. And writing can be in various forms. It does not, as much as people hear me say it, it does not have to be old school pen and paper. Like you literally can write in any form or source to your liking. The challenge is doing so at a consistent level to the point that it gets the message across and gets people to understand what you're trying to share and what you're looking to put out there. So, for example, his his writing platform, Cortex, which by the way, I've used the app a few times and it fell into the dreaded shiny object syndrome of it's available, but I probably have used it less now than I have in quite some time. But I have noticed that if I need a place to jot down a quick note or two, it's a good storage spot for that. Now, I want to share this before I go too in depth about the cortex discussion. Everyone, in some way, shape, or form, has done or does writing in their day to day. Talked about this before. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. You can go back and listen to a few walkcasts where I've given research on how pivotal writing and reading is in your day to day. But why I'm sharing this and why this is a big conversation piece for me is I've really realized that his content, as sporadic as it pops up in my feeds, always draws me back to reality. And reality basically just says, bro, you might not think it, you might not believe it, but writing is in your blood. Writing gets outweighed by life, but life can be outweighed by writing if you don't allow life to be overly dominant of your life. And I know it's like, well, that's kind of a double. it's kind of a double turn. Like, how does that even correlate? But if you really sit down and break it all down, you're in some way, shape, or form, you're doing some type of writing. Everyone who listens to these podcasts, they're doing they text people text folks all day long. And folks done got fancy to the point now where we send voice notes. And voice notes you still have to gather words together to piece elements in place. Um, Random story, but it'll tie into this. Friend of mine said she was looking for someone who has like a place to do podcasting. And I said, well, oddly enough, I do your podcasting from what I consider as the main thing, which is uh, hook up a mic, turn on the platform, and start recording. So I said, well, yeah, I should be able to help specifically, which totally, totally understood. She was looking for someone who can do the all out, which is record the audio and do the video. And the craziest thing is, a couple of hours before her and I had that conversation, I was talking to a friend of mine who he was sharing how someone we mutually know, we were talking about their podcast. And one thing that I emphasize all the time, you can have great video, get great shots, but if I can't hear nothing you saying, turned off, turned off, disinterested, like low to so believe it or not, low to no audio. And I'd probably go on a limb and say um, low to no audio and smoke alarms. People think I'm really being difficult when I say or reference smoke alarms, but reality is smoke alarms will turn me off so fast from listening to a podcast because the amount of time it takes to stop a show, acquire a 9-volt battery, and go change your smoke alarm battery, you could get a much better sound and a more noticeable attention on your recording than on someone's smoke alarm. Like a person can have a studio, have it decked out to the nines, have it nice and well structured, whatever. But if you don't have a way to, if you don't have the smoke alarm battery change, we're in trouble. So rolling back, writing, systems, habits. When you implement a system to write every day, it gets a lot out of your system. Or implement a habit to write every day. Many times, and this is it's a very tricky slash slippery slope, but I'll speak on it only because I can. Um, a while back, not too long ago, um, no one really thinks about this. Some people get podcasting mixed up, and it will make podcasting that way of writing, but it's not a good form of writing because you have people that might get in trouble. That's where I am and what I'm about to say. You have people that will jump on a podcast or will buy expensive microphone talking about stuff, but won't go vote. It's the weirdest thing to me. Or voting becomes so controversial that it's really not a controversial thing. It's a it's an outright choice. Um, but I still stand behind the fact that something so mundane has been made so much of a battle, and it's never been a battle to begin with. Yeah, like a couple seconds. I just need to breathe. Today's walk is going to be one for the ages, only because this is one of the first times in a while that I'm walking, and my immune system is like having its own little episode. So, as good as I can claim to be, brother is cooked this morning, only because um, you sometimes have to find that weird or unique way to, like, quote unquote, get it out of your system. And today's getting it out of my system is just me um, keeping the body moving, because um, there are days that I truly and honestly just want to throw in a towel and just not do it. Um, but then you realize and you remember that there's a bigger purpose behind what you're working on and trying to get accomplished. And whether it's their job to or not, others want to understand like your why and your purpose and what got you here and all that. And I'm like, look, I'm doing it because I have to. I'm doing it because me and my body have gone through our fair share of tough love. Uh, and it can wear down on you. It can really wear down on you, whether you think it does or not. But more than anything, and I'm saying this because I need to, and because it's the truth. Folks see what you're doing, and folks have seen my progress. Folks have commended me on my progress or shown appreciation, and it never goes unnoticed. I don't want that to not sound like a thing because it's not. Um, I notice it too because even with me feeling like I feel this morning, I'm not like hunched over, back sore, tired, aggravated, the whole nine. I think it's just more having to go through it is like the more frustrating element than anything else. But that's like anything in life. So it's nothing unusual. Um, you kind of learn to handle what comes with the pressure points and don't get, don't lose sight. Don't lose sight, man. Uh, talked about this a little bit before, but I probably I couldn't tell you how many times I've wanted to throw in the towel on like a lot of stuff, like everything. Just say, forget it, I'm done. I'll, I'll improv and find a way and make it all work. And then reality sets in. And it's like, y'all, you got bills, you got life, you got routines, you got different things you're working on. And whether you realize it or not, there are people within your life who want to see you win. They want to see you succeed. And bigger question and the X factor of it all is You want to see you win. And the craziest thing is, years ago, I was never for losing. I always like winning was winning was not optional. Anyone who knows me from my gaming days will tell you I was one of the most competitive people in gaming. That's, believe it or not, this is so random but so relevant. Like that's a big part of why I don't own and don't plan to ever purchase a newer system because it's it's a battle playing online, and you come into a game and you kind of know what you're doing and kind of can figure it out a little bit. But when you play against folks, it's like veterans, sweaty tryhards that been at this for like forever and a day. It can it can knock you off course a little bit with wanting to do it. But then over time, like anything, you knock it out, you make it happen. Um, yeah, by the way, and this is a lesson without knowing it's a lesson. There's a reason I don't walk this late because if you notice, getting up and walking before 6 o'clock, ain't nobody outside, like at all. Sure, there might be a few planes going, traveling or whatever, but there's not as much traffic. Obviously, as you just heard, you don't deal with as many houses like in the process of construction. And they got deadlines. And that just kind of brought something home with a active project I'm working on. Deadlines, expectations are not to be, for lack of a better term, they're not to be treated lightly. Um, and in many cases, it's never about them being treated lightly. It's about you having to battle through what's needing to be done to get the thing done. And believe me, it can it can be a little tough. And when I say little, I use little in big in a big way. Uh, but habit systems, man. I'm sorry. I know I've kind of bounced all over the place with this one, but I I bought the pen over a year ago, and it's so crazy because I bought the pen, then I bought the base. Didn't need neither one of them because I had a barrage of ink pens. But James Clear is the biggest person to talk about. It's not your goals; it's your systems that are in place to reach your goals. And I'm paraphrasing this big time, especially with me owning the actual pen itself. But our goals are our goals have meaning, but they don't have substance. The systems you have to like complete and achieve those goals, that's the breadwinner. That's the money maker. Uh my reflection of all reflections this year, there's two, would be navigating through my father's um death and passing. That was one that really, there were a lot of systems that had to be re-implemented that were off the radar, and they're just starting. Mind you, this all went on like July, late July, early, beginning of August. So I didn't have many systems and things and thoughts and anything in place. And the other thing that ain't gonna follow me, I can't even be mad. They actually waiting. I feel real bad now. Thanks, Karma. Thanks, life. Thanks, Dad. Probably that probably was my dad. Um, but the other one, and it still blows my mind how decent I did with little to no personal training. I'm not gonna say I didn't train. I didn't get training, but I really didn't do my own form or source of training for it was the 10K. Now, I wasn't a long shot. I had no plans on like walking the 10K because there's no need. But the 10K was a reality check on every level because one, more than anything, when I finished it, sure I was tired. Sure, my body was like sore as all get out, but it didn't functionally slow me down. I think my immune system, my well being was in pretty good spirits at the time. Um, there's a lot, like there's things that my dad saw me do or knew about me doing, but I can still remember how supportive he was of me getting that done. And I think there was like a lot of concern that day after I finished it because it just, in the long run, it was like, all right, you got this walk done, but what else you gonna work on? And that particular day, I probably slept more than I did in quite some time because my body was like, no, you did great, but we need you to sit it down for a second. Uh, I doubt this is gonna be the last walk cast for the year. Of course, I'm preparing. Fingers crossed, supposed to have, and you all, anyone who's been caught up on the shows will hear this. There will be 2 year in review podcasts if I can get the stars to align. Not literally, but um, basically, one I'm recording this week. The other one I'm planning to record on or around Christmas. Uh, should be a good dialogue if all goes to plan. Because the second one, the person was adamant, like, I'm ready. And I'm like, okay, being ready versus us actually doing it and you having like the time frame is so much different behemoth. So um, yeah, there will be, like I said, there'll be 2 year in review podcasts this year, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty excited about it because I've been holding back a lot of feelings, a lot of thoughts, a lot of positive well wishes and the whole nine. But I believe I just might be ready. And the best part is I'm not I'm not as alone. The one thing that's heavy but hard is at times you can feel or have that tendency to become alone when doing certain things. And I've had support, but it's trying to like take time and remind yourself of your personal support system, your personal um cheerleading squad, for lack of a better term. And at times, it's not to say that the support ain't there or the people ain't for you succeeding. It's the the infamous obstacle or hurdle of like, are you there for you being successful and succeeding? Like a company can rate you and give you a rating of whatever, but at the end of the day, what a company does, how decisions go with an opportunity mean nothing compared to our main decision. And our biggest decision is going to be with, as we all make light of sometimes, the man upstairs. Like God has the final say so. Um, the last few minutes of this walk, I'm gonna, and I don't usually, normally would push this early on, but I'm gonna talk about this now because it's real and it's just pure on where my spirit is. Um, we sometimes feel like we're not doing it, we're not getting it done, and we measure ourselves against so many forms and sources of criteria, and we don't realize that in the midst of it, we remove what got us there. Like full transparency, like, getting this job, I acquired it by the skin of my teeth. And I'm not like saying that I don't deserve it, but I'm saying it as there wasn't enough pure and true confidence in myself to be in a position to be an engineer, Markel. Uh, I was more analytical of like the other pieces and elements instead of embracing the fact that I was more than anything put in a position to apply and excel within the company. Uh, it was scary. It was eye opening, but it put a lot. It put a lot into perspective, and it put a lot of light on. It shed a lot of light on things, and more than anything, um, I had to really reflect on this, especially nearly almost 2 years later. That if I added God to the equation, I think the result would have been a lot bigger. And I'm not saying bigger than not being an engineer, but I think it would have been bigger than I would have really put the tools in place to really put my head down and make it happen. Like I was like, I'll be real, I'll be vulnerable with y'all. I was connected to a lot of bullshit um over the years, over time. And it don't seem like it in its entirety, but speaking out and thinking about it now, like I didn't get it much at the time, but I truly get why I appreciated the talks and the conversations I had with David. And uh, service desk. And I know I'm throwing names out there. Hopefully they hear or somebody else hears. Not thinking I'm referencing anyone, but uh, talking with him was hopeful, and knowing his story, his journey, his path. He was a little older than I was, but we also connected because not only outside of obviously yeah he's a brother, but he was also like a man who really brought a lot of things to my eyes that even at the time in the long run, I wasn't open to wanting to see it. But over the last few months, I've seen a lot clearer in like things get like we hear that phrase or we absorb that phrase of like, seeds being planted, but the seed was being planted then and I just won't really trying to I ain't no water. I ain't want to grow it. I ain't want to nutrient it, nothing. Like even even thinking about it now, like when I was in service desk, I would invest more effort drinking coffee than drinking water. And I want to say when I started this job, and it was, I think, because I don't even think I've had my Stanley like a year yet, but drinking more water, staying more hydrated, keeping the right things in your body, like I began to really grasp the importance of that stuff. Because at first I was like, I mean, it ain't no big deal, ain't nothing to worry about. But now I'm like, no, I need to like really put my body in a better position. And I think between the body and the finances, getting in a better connection with self and with God and with just this journey. I'm not in this position, and I say this all the time. Like I don't, I'm not somebody that's trying to like for a while, and I let it be what it was at the time. But like I'm not trying to get no bus filled with everybody who's trying to go where I'm going. No, you go where you going, you do what you do, and if you want to join in this mix, you know how to get me. You know what to do. I'm not pushing nothing towards nobody at this point in my life. I just don't. I personally don't have the capacity or the bandwidth to do it anymore, and I've done it. I think what's so bad is that I've tried to push so many people with me on what's what, and I've realized like it's sometimes going back to what I mentioned earlier. When you do things and you move or you operate different, a lot of people don't know what to do with that. And personally, no one's ever known how to deal with that with me. And that's something that started with me when I was a kid. Like when I was younger, it's just been a thing that's ordained to me. But um now I want people to really like I know I always say this at the end, or I say this once I'm kind of like cooling down, but love on yourself and love on other people, man. Put your heart and your mind in the right place. Um, don't let as hard as it is not to like really piece and process your thoughts and your feelings on things. Uh, believe it or not, and I'm one to say this because it's just what it is. Um, if you think you about to say something crazy or out of character, take a minute and really stop and breathe and really think of what you're about to say after that thing that you're about to say. So, and that's from two aspects. That's from a written aspect and that's from a verbal aspect. Like verbally, people will verbalize in the moment. I needed that one to come up yesterday. People will verbalize in the moment. And when they verbalize, it's like they done said it, they don't have no regrets. But then time passes and they're like, man, I wish I didn't say what I said. And I'm like, you can always fix it. You just gotta wanna for a lot of people it comes down to wanting to fix it. And um some of us don't wanna fix it because we're too it's like our pride and our ego. And then even worse, sorry if y'all, my bad. That was like so nasty. Same applies with written slash digital. Like, I don't care what anybody says. Email, SMS, chats, group chats, whatever. Please, please, please be as impeccable as you can with the words you say and the messages you give. Because you never know what someone is saying or what someone is trying to get across, how strong what they're saying could be resonated. Because you got to let some folks be where they are and say what they say, and then you can respond as you need to, and don't respond from a place of hurt and anger, because a person is going to know whether you realize it or not. So, spilled and talked enough. I gave y'all enough of a gab of gems that are deemed necessary. But we'll the next time y'all hear me, man, like I said, I think I'm gonna do a show. I may record either Thursday or Friday. I don't know yet. Um, but the good part is I'm chilling, so I'm not like in some chaotic flow of things of what I need to do and where I need to go. So I can kind of focus on what I need to focus on and go from there. But in the meantime, in between time, I love y'all, appreciate y'all, and until next time, BT signing out. Peace.
Truly hope you all enjoyed the show. Definitely was a lot to unpack, but I know you'll walk away with something important. As I share at the end of each season, do find your way to get into podcasting if it's something you would like to do. My podcasts are currently recorded via Buzzsprout. Been very good to me. If you want to learn more about using them, definitely hit me up at thepastbtpod@gmail.com. And also the microphone that you're hearing me on is the Blue Yeti X. Have been rolling with it for over 3 years. We've been doing this ride for quite some time, so I hope someone could find this mic useful. Again, find those people who are good or helpful in what you're trying to do to be better today than you were yesterday. The primary goal is to be 1% better. Hope you all have an amazing day, and we'll be back again to do this next time.